If Bryce Underwood does flip to Michigan, does LSU have a backup plan? We're talking about it. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, smash that like button. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. It is LSU-Alabama week. Brian Kelly updated the status of linebacker West Weeks, who could have an interesting finish to his season. And I'm not just talking about a red shirt. I'll tell you what I mean here in just a quick second. Our guy, Sean Salisbury, quarterback guru on Garrett Nussmeier. Will he bounce back against Bama? But every single week we have a chance to visit with Shea Dixon on 3 The Bengal Tiger, talk a little LSU recruiting. And y'all, this weekend is massive. No way around it. Bryce Underwood, number one player in the country. He'll be at LSU-Bama. Jakeem Stewart, the number one player for 2026 who reclassified to 2025. He'll be in attendance. 5-star commitments, DJ Pickett, Harlan Berry. They'll be in attendance. 2026 blue chip prospects, Lamar Brown, Blaine Bradford. They'll be in attendance. It is going to be a massive opportunity for LSU on the recruiting trail, as you would expect. Listen, Oregon had a great opportunity when they played Ohio State. Jakeem Stewart was there. They upset Ohio State. Fans rushed the field. But last weekend, South Carolina had a great opportunity with Texas A&M there. Fans rushed the field. Texas A&M against LSU. The blackout conditions, night game, bonkers crowd. They got 3 commitments the next day. This is LSU's turn. Alabama coming to Tiger Stadium. College game day will be there. It'll be a night game. It'll be full throat. It is going to be peak Tiger Stadium. And you're going to have the biggest recruits in the country, both commitments and uncommitted prospects that you're targeting in that number. Bryce Underwood will be there. We've talked a lot over the past couple of weeks about Bryce Underwood, in large part because Bryce Underwood is a guy that's been committed to LSU for almost a year now. You read the tea leaves, and by and large, it seems like he is certainly going to be an LSU Tiger. He is crystal balled to LSU. The On3 recruiting prediction machine has him going to LSU. And the fact of the matter is, even though he lives 18 miles from Michigan Stadium, he hasn't visited Michigan since July of 2023. That's before last football season. He hasn't even been to campus since Sharon Moore's been the coach. He's been so adamant that LSU is his choice. He was seen signing LSU football helmets last Friday after his game. Joe Sloan, when LSU had the open date, Joe Sloan flew up to Michigan to watch his game at Bellevue. So for every single reason possible, I'm not kicking the anthill, I'm not stirring the pot. I'm not saying what I'm just saying. It certainly looks like it's an overwhelming chance that Bryce Underwood ends up at LSU. There is a question, though, if you're going to throw around $5, $6, $7 million, does the number get high enough to where any young person would take the Godfather offer, the offer you don't refuse? So I had the chance to talk to Shea Dixon. He gave the update, and it's all the things that we just talked about, why LSU's in a good spot with Bryce Underwood. And I think they are. And I think, Bryce, just to be clear, I think Bryce Underwood is going to end up an LSU Tiger. The conversations I've had with LSU boosters and collective, it certainly doesn't seem like LSU is just going to let Bryce Underwood walk because of money. Now, obviously, everybody has a number that's their breaking point, but it certainly seems like LSU is going to be as competitive as they need to be to make sure they land Bryce Underwood in campus. But what if the unlikely happens? What if Bryce Underwood does flip to Michigan? Does LSU have a backup plan?
I mean, you always keep in contact with guys, and by and large, the portal. Look, if you keep in contact with a player, even though he's not committed to you, all the way through signing day, and 2 years later he's in the portal. Whenever you make a phone call to him, he's answering because you recruited him all the way, even when you weren't getting him. A number of kids in this class have talked about that with this LSU staff. I don't know what the backup plan would be because right now the plan is Underwood and do what it takes to get him here. And look, he's been committed for 300-plus days and has never stepped foot on another campus, let alone Michigan, which is 30 minutes down the road. And I think for LSU, too, the good news here is he's talked about this being a long-term decision, Matt, and he sees Jaden Daniels now taking over in the NFL. He's seeing these Louisiana receivers come out of LSU year after year and have really successful NFL careers, continuing with Malik and Brian right now. So Michigan doesn't, like if you were going up against I don't know, name it, Matt, some high-powered offense that throws at Oregon 40 times a game or something, and you knew they had deep NIL pockets, and he lived right outside Eugene, like that would be one thing. But Michigan's stuck in kind of the Les Miles days, aren't they? I mean, they don't have a quarterback. They run the football. They won national championship last year, but now they've got an interim head coach and a new staff. You don't know how long all that lasts. So I just think there's a little more certainty around his position, around the program, everything that comes with what LSU has been able to do with Brian Kelly here and the prior staff, and putting guys like Burrow and Daniels into the NFL. And then Nuss playing, barring that collapse in College Station, which I know is fresh on everyone's mind. Prior to that, he led the nation in completions. And to a guy like Bryce Underwood or any quarterback, that just tells me I get to throw the ball a lot. So I think that they value LSU and what it can do for him long term more than Michigan at this stage, and I don't think anyone is surprised by that.
So there is no backup plan. The plan is Bryce Underwood. Now, Garrett Nussmeier very likely is going to have a draft decision to make. We'll see how he plays in the month of November, and that'll be a big part of it. But he's a fourth-year player. He's draft eligible. He's had a really good season, and he could go. The ear-to-the-ground scuttlebutt is that Doug Nussmeier, Garrett's father, wants Garrett to return for another season. And I will be as consistent on this as possible. If Garrett Nussmeier comes back for another year, that is an awesome thing for LSU. I know Bryce Underwood is this wunderkind, and we're all excited to see him. But you give me a fifth-year, senior, second-year starter, LSU's had good success with that. Mettenberger, Burrow, Daniels, yeah, all those guys in their fifth year, second year as a starter were pretty incredible. So give me Garrett Nussmeier back. Ricky Collins, Colin Hurley. You could even get A.J. Swan back for another season. Not to say he would return, but you would have enough arms and bodies there if you did lose Underwood. You don't want to, but if you did, you'd have enough there. Now, the other gigantic prospect that's got people a little leery that'll be on campus is, of course, Jakeem Stewart. The number one player in the country for 2026, defensive lineman, who reclassified for 25. He's down to 4 schools. It's LSU, Ohio State, Oregon, and USC. Now, he's already taken his official visit to Oregon. He'll be at LSU this weekend. He'll still go to Ohio State and then to USC. Forgive me, he's taken Oregon and Ohio State. He'll come to LSU this weekend, then he'll be at USC next weekend. But Jakeem Stewart said in an interview that he does have his top 2, although he wouldn't name them. I asked Jay his feeling on who those top 2 were.
Ohio State and LSU have 2 well-known D-line coaches who have coached a long time and put out a lot of guys into the league. And then I think that a kid from reserve, this is a battle Oregon fights. Oregon's got NIL money. Oregon's got Lanning as a head coach and a staff of recruiters, and they've got a great class, but they have to battle this of kids leaving home and going all the way out to not just the West Coast, but the Pacific Northwest. And you can have Nike and all of that, but you're still overcoming hurdles. And that's tough for them. And I think that ultimately Ohio State is, even on a flight, is quicker and maybe feels a little bit more like I'm closer to home. So I would pick those 2. And I think Ohio State's done well to recruit him. He has real interest there.
One thing to keep in mind is with Southern Cal being one of those other 4 finalists, remember, they're 4-5. It's been a long time since September the 1st out in Vegas when Southern Cal upended LSU. But there's a real possibility that Lincoln Riley gets fired. And I know the buyout number is astronomical, but that's a private school. And everything I've been told around Southern Cal is there is not an appetite because they gave Lincoln Riley every resource he needed to win. And they're 4-5 right now. And I don't know that he survives this. So that might even eliminate SC from the conversation, but we'll follow it. There's one more from Shea that I want to get to here. And it was the conversation about current LSU Tigers that could flip. And there's 2 players in particular he mentioned. We'll get to that as we continue. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Hey, y'all. LSU-Alabama Saturday in Tiger Stadium. You want to be there, part of the 102,000 proud, loud, and strong. Game Time can help make it happen. All you got to do is download that Game Time app, my personal favorite ticketing platform that you'll find anywhere. Yes, of course, it's sports, but it's not just sports. Concerts, comedy, theater, everything. If you love to be at live events, you want the Game Time app. Go check out Game Time Picks. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports and concerts and comedy and theater. Download the Game Time app, y'all. They have all-in pricing. You have to turn that feature on, but when you toggle, it'll show you the total up front, no surprise fees at checkout. You can get panoramic views from your seat in the app before you buy, and the lowest price guarantee. As a matter of fact, they will credit you 110% of the difference there to make sure you get the lowest price. It's all at Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem with the code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. So one more from Shea Dixon as we were kind of talking through this. Last year, roughly 40% of LSU's class were flips coming in. Remember, LSU flipped 4 players alone from Texas A&M. Well, what about players going out? This is an unavoidable part of every recruiting class. You're going to flip guys in, and you're going to lose guys inevitably as well. Well, Shea Dixon did mention 2 prospects currently in LSU's class that could be flight risks.
Percent of the class a year ago flips, which is a super high number. I think 4 guys have flipped this year, and they were some big ones. They flipped some Texas commits, and most recently Jacob Bradford from Houston. But I think right now, if you're looking at it, it's 2 guys on offense. It's Derek Meadows, and then it's Mike Tyler at tight end. And Meadows is a receiver. To sum it up, he's from Michigan. He moved to Vegas to play at Bishop Gorman, but had visited Notre Dame a ton, almost 10 times. Everyone thought he was going to Notre Dame. And then he said, let me take a look at LSU and Bama. And then he said, hey, I want to play in the SEC, and committed to LSU. He hasn't been back since he committed. Now he was at Michigan this past weekend, so that's his home state. He'll be at Notre Dame this weekend instead of the LSU-Bama game. So clearly he's looking around, and it obviously, you can put the pieces together of he's playing out in Vegas. Perhaps he wants to get back closer to home for college. And Notre Dame was a school that most felt he was going to end up at, but we'll see how it plays out. And Tyler is the guy. Look, they've got J.B. LaFleur, David LaFleur's son, committed a 4-star tight end out of Sulphur. But then they went and found Mike Tyler out of South Carolina. The road bump here is he's from Columbia. And I know we just talked about you high kids sometimes leaving the state, but he goes to Hammond High in Columbia. And South Carolina had been chasing some other tight ends, and they had offered him, but he committed to LSU. And now more recently, they really turned up the heat on him. He's had a strong senior year, and he was at an electric atmosphere for their win over A&M this past weekend. So he's even said after that, hey, look, I need to think about some things. And obviously a kid who's 17 weighing, hey, look, I have a chance to play for the hometown team, or I stick with my commitment to LSU. I'm sure it's a win-win for him, but that's tough for me to predict what the kid's going to do. And like I said, when you flip it, this is a Baton Rouge or Lafayette or New Orleans kid, most people just expect them to stay home. So that's one we're kind of monitoring.
So that is a wide receiver and a tight end with Meadows and then Tyler. Specifically in this class, well, remember, you're going to lose Kyron Lacey, CJ Daniels. We'll see what happens with guys like Aaron Anderson and Xavion Thomas, who could come back and could leave. You got a lot of young receiving talent, but you could be sort of thin there. And Meadows is your highest rated receiver commitment. He's the number 80 overall prospect in the country in the on-3 composite. After that, when you look at receivers in this class, Teron Francis out of Edna Carr, number 244 nationally. You've got some in-state kids. You flipped the speedy Phillip Wright out of Destrehan. He's number 456 nationally. But you could be looking at a spot where your highest rated receiver commit could be flipping out of this class. And Mike Tyler, the tight end, he is actually your lowest rated prospect currently committed in the class. He's number 612 overall nationally. And, I don't think Mason Taylor's going to return for a senior year. If he does, awesome. Then this is no problem at all. If Mason Taylor returns, great. You have the best tight end in the country. But he could very well elect to go pro. And if he does, then you're really a little bit in a pinch there because you have J.D. LaFleur coming in as a freshman. You've moved Trey'Dez Green to receiver. We'll see if that sticks. And, you've got Kamorian Pimpton, but you would lack the true inline blocker aside from LaFleur as a freshman that Brian Kelly really covets. So you might be a little thin at tight end, potentially at receiver as well if those two guys flip out of the class. So we'll keep an eye on it. I want to shift the gear from the future to the present, which, of course, is Alabama Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. And every week we also visit with our guy, Sean Salisbury, quarterback guru. Sean, he's been on ESPN and different networks really for my whole life, played quarterback in the NFL, and now spends his time as a radio host on Sports Talk 790 in Houston. But he's also a quarterback tutor. He's one of these guys that coaches and tutors quarterbacks of all ages, and puts a lot of his prospects into major college football. So I love getting to talk to Sean about quarterback play. And he certainly believes that Garrett Nussmeier is going to have a big bounce back. A big part of what Sean said is when you have guys that are really elite players, it's rare they put together back-to-back bad outings. Typically, when they have a bad outing and they're embarrassed, they come back with a vengeance, which you would expect from Nuss, especially with sort of 2 weeks to prepare for this one. But I did ask him how he thinks Alabama will defend Garrett Nussmeier.
They are going to do everything. Remember, we talked about going into the A&M game, multiple pressures, give him a bunch of different looks, even though he handled him in the first half. The second half, it only took a play here, play there. Before you know it, that thing's rolling downhill, and you couldn't walk out and hand it to the right guy. Happens to every quarterback that's ever played. And it happened at an unfortunate wrong moment, which now puts a lot of pressure on them, as is Alabama, to their losses with the Vandy and Tennessee.
Yeah.
Both of them are under that stress and the duress that goes with it. And then you double that because you're the quarterback and it falls on you. So I would fully expect – they're not – I can tell you this. They may play zone, but they're not going to line up and show you zone regularly so he gets to see it. He's too smart. His football IQ and where to throw the football and his anticipation that we've talked about. You cannot do that, especially with a guy coming off an embarrassing second half for LSU, where it's like, and now they're at home. He's going to want to put on a good one. You drop back and play zone the whole time and don't pressure him. This will be a big throwing night for him. I don't care that it's Alabama. So you watch. They are going to do everything they can. Did I see yesterday or today, Maddie, that one of the interior guards is out for LSU? Did I see that?
Yeah, Garrett Dellinger is going to miss the game.
There you go. They will attack it. Good teams attack where they say, well, the starter's better than the backup. Let's see how he plays. You'll see them go after it. I would expect a lot of pressure and a lot of disguise or as much as they can. So we'll see how they combat that with their cadence or the rest of it with LSU. But, yeah, I expect a game from Nussmeier, but I expect Alabama. They saw it, and you feed off other people's success and say, well, wait, we got the same kind of players they got. I wouldn't expect anything less than trying to get after him and force him not to be able to throw and get through his reads. And even though he can run, that's not how he's going to win this game.
We also haven't seen Garrett Nussmeier yet put together back-to-back games. When you just look at his interception numbers, again, South Alabama and Ole Miss. Now, you did have a bye in between, but he had 2 interceptions in either of those games. And if you remember the 2 against South Alabama, were both lazy. One was at the end of the first half. One was at the start of the second, and they were just poor decisions in a game that had kind of gotten away. Remember, that was the game where LSU scored on literally the first play from scrimmage, the 81-yard catch and run by Caden Durham. It's not to excuse it, but they were lazy interceptions. One interception against Southern Cal in the opener. That's after SC had taken the lead 27-20 in the final seconds, and Nuss had to heave one up, and it got picked. One of the interceptions against Ole Miss was a deflected ball at the line of scrimmage. I guess you could put that on the quarterback, but really I think you just hat-tipped the defense for deflecting the ball, and it got popped up. So when you really look at the interceptions of the 9 that were in a tight game in a bad spot to make the decision he made, the one against South Carolina, the other one against Ole Miss, and then really the outlier was the game against Texas A&M. So he's got 9 on the season, but context matters. And maybe the biggest context is think about a year ago where Jaden Daniels threw for 40 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. I don't know if you'll see that again, man. It was incredible a year ago. So you're going to have quarterbacks that turn him over, not like Jaden Daniels did. Or didn't, I should say. But again, what we saw from Nussmeier against Texas A&M was the outlier, not the rule. And I certainly expect a big bounce back. But the bigger story, it's not Garrett Nussmeier. It's can LSU run the ball? Can they stop Jalen Milroe from stopping the run? Remember, if you missed the previous episode, we spent a good amount of time on Jalen Milroe, his ability to run, his history, and how LSU might stop it. If you missed that, make sure you go check out that episode of Locked on LSU. Okay, we'll wrap up today's episode with maybe some good news for LSU from Brian Kelly about West Weeks and his future with the Tigers, although there might be an angle here that you haven't considered about how LSU may very well use West Weeks a little more this year. We'll talk about it to wrap up next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. It's been interesting to watch what's happened with LSU linebacker West Weeks this year. He played the first 2 games of the season, suffered a foot injury, and then missed games, came back against South Alabama, played just 4 snaps in that game before he tapped his helmet and took himself out because clearly he wasn't right. Well, he had the open date, then you had Ole Miss, and then we've seen since West Weeks dress against Arkansas and Texas A&M, but he's not played. I asked Brian Kelly on Monday what's going on with West Weeks and if they were planning on playing him for the rest of the year. Here's what he said.
He's got games remaining. Our hope is, because he has another season of eligibility, that if we could save that season of eligibility, we would prefer to do that. We've had a conversation with the family and with West about doing that. We think he's an outstanding leader. We feel as though, as things move forward, to have a veteran presence coming back next season would be in everybody's best interest. But we've made it clear, if there's an injury and there's a need to win football games and win a championship, he's got to be ready. So it's kind of where we're at right now relative to West.
So a couple of things. West Weeks has played in 3 games. Now, the rule is you can play in 4 and maintain your redshirt year. So West Weeks can play in another game this year and still maintain that redshirt. So hypothetically, if a situation arises where, let's say, Greg Penn or Whit Weeks were hurt, and they felt like they needed to put West in the game, he could play and still maintain his redshirt year. Against Arkansas, you might remember Greg Penn went down late in the first half, and it was Devon Keys that went in the ball game. So just something to consider as we look forward. So it doesn't look like they want to play him, but they could play him one more if you get into dire straits in a tight ball game. The other thing to remember is the NCAA changed the rule whereby a player can play in a bowl game and it not count against their eligibility. Remember, LSU was part of why this rule got changed. Back in the 2021 season, LSU plays in that Texas Bowl against Kansas State, and Garrett Nussmeier, who had played in 4 games, chose not to play in the bowl game so he could maintain that extra year of eligibility. As a result, Jontre Kirkland played quarterback. You had a receiver playing quarterback in a bowl game. And after that, and with all the opt-outs in bowl games, the NCAA decided, you know what? Guys can play in the bowl game and it won't count against their 4 games they could play, so they could maintain that year of eligibility, trying to make sure that they had enough players to play in these bowl games. So you're following me here? Let's say against Alabama, for whatever reason, God forbid, knock on for Micah, Greg Penn turns an ankle or something. You could go play West Weeks the remainder of the game, and that's 4. Now, he couldn't play again. But what if you beat Bama? And you beat Florida? And you beat Vandy and you beat Oklahoma? And you go 10-2 and you get in the playoff. Technically, the playoff would constitute a bowl game, wouldn't it? It's your postseason. You probably need to get clarification on that. But couldn't you then use West Weeks in the postseason, in the college football playoff, and not have it count against his eligibility? So there is a path still for West Weeks to play, not just in one more game this year, but in the postseason as well, and still maintain that year of eligibility. Now, when you look at linebacker for next year, it is interesting because Greg Penn's out of eligibility, and Harold Perkins, we're all assuming, is going to the draft. He's got a decision to make coming off the torn ACL, but you're still seeing him projected pretty highly in a lot of drafts. So let's assume Harold goes pro. That means you'd have Whit Weeks back, and then West, provided he's able to maintain this red shirt. Devon Keys and Xavier Atkins, the two freshmen who have played this year, and look, they don't get a red shirt. Keys has already played in 7 games, and Atkins has played in 5. They've played over the limit, so this counts as a year of eligibility. You've also got Tylen Singleton, a freshman that's on the team this year that hasn't played. And you've got 4 commits already, linebacker commits for the class of 2025, so players that will be freshmen next year, including Charles Ross, who's ranked number 75 overall in the country. That's not a linebacker. That's at any position. He's the top 100 player in the country for the class of 2025. Keelan Moses, of course, is in that class as well. CJ Jim Coyley, who's a safety out of Tennessee, but is committed to LSU and very likely to play linebacker. So Jaden Breaker out of Georgia is another one that you've got committed. So you got 4 linebackers committed as well. So even if you lose Penn and Perkins, Whit, West, Keys, Atkins, Singleton, and then your 4 commits, that's 9 linebackers. You got numbers. And if you feel like you need another veteran or you need a starter, you could always go dip into the portal to add somebody else. So it'd be great to see West Weeks come back next year to have another veteran linebacker, because if West didn't, and then Penn and Perkins were both gone, Whit Weeks would be your only really experienced linebacker. Yes, Keys and Atkins have played this year, but Whit would, for all intents and purposes, be the only guy with starting experience at linebacker. And then that would almost make the portal a necessity for the 2025 season. But we'll follow it. But that's the latest from Brian Kelly on West Weeks. Keep an eye. See if 33 might get in the game against Alabama. He's got one more to burn to maintain his red shirt. Okay, that's going to do it for us here on today's episode of Locked On LSU. Now go check out, thanks for making us your first listen, by the way. Now go check out Locked On SEC with our guy, Chris Gordy. You can find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you are on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.